This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
Hey there, bad movie lovers. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to yet another episode of Bad Movies We Love. You know the deal. I am your host, Nick Scheist.
The master of the stupid stuff!
Yes, indeed. And of course...
If you're listening to this, you are the Resistance.
And before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of you out there in the Resistance who listen to this show and have made this celebration of June-Claude Van Damme the second most listened to month of the show so far, and the show has crossed some important milestones in both downloads and unique listeners in the last month as well, so I'm very grateful to have you all along for the ride on this journey with me. As you know, I do believe that word of mouth is the best way to help, so thank you to all of you out there who have taken the time to either share the show around on social media or tell a friend about it in person. I think the results speak for themselves, and it's a really easy, no-cost, no-obligation way to help the show. Now, we're pushing the deadline a little bit, but we got one more movie in the chamber for June-Claude Van Damme, and I was joined by Movie Miss of the Let's Talk Turkeys podcast to close out our celebration of JCVD with Peter Hyams' Timecop from 1994.
Let's do some Van Damage.
I want to watch it again.
This movie, very fuzzy, very sketchy, very loosey-goosey with how this all works.
Disassemble that vacuum cleaner and then glue it to the outside of the car.
They went, well, this will look really fucking cool, so who cares?
Why does he have a bunch of half-cut onions with a knife in them?
He wants to be appreciated, and I'm happy to do it.
Boom. Oh, I didn't expect to see his ass, but there it is.
I appreciate a well-rounded ass.
There's never enough time.
Never enough for what?
To satisfy a woman.
Well, then you never want to miss an opportunity.
Miss, welcome back to the show. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited this time around, more than usual.
More than usual. Wow. I mean, considering we've already talked about Congo and American Werewolf in Paris, that is high praise.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Van Damme. I mean, Van Damme, I'm excited.
Well, how have you been since the last time we spoke? I feel like it's been a few months at this point.
It has been a long time. I'm good. I'm really good. We are on a break at my show for summer break because life has just gotten super busy. But yeah, enjoying it. So that's all right.
Yeah, summer break actually sounds nice. I know that I have stuff lined up through the summer, and then I'm I kind of want to take a break, but I kind of don't. So I'm still on the fence. I just know that my work schedule and the show and the film club and the website and bringing back the other show and starting 2 new shows, it's all super overwhelmed. There's not enough time. I need to be
insanity.
A time cop. Yeah, I need to be a time cop just so I can go back in time and have enough time to work on all of the different things I'm trying to do. So we're getting there. And I'm trying to see what I can sort of not edit heavily, because this show, there's sound effects, there's music cues, there's a lot of things that I need to put in post-production, where an interview format show where I'm speaking to, in this case, a documentary filmmaker, I don't have to be oh, hey, all right, well, it's time for trivia. That's not going to happen in that context. So I don't have to edit as strictly. So I'm hoping that if I record for an hour, 2 hours, the edit's only going to be about that long, and then it's not an all day kind of process. So we'll see how it goes, but things are coming out slowly so that I can make sure that I actually have enough time to do all of these things. Or maybe we just schedule releases a little differently moving into the second half of the year. But It's June-Claude Van Damme, and this started as a stupid idea, and now I don't know if it got smarter or stupider, but I think just watching Timecop was either my 8th or ninth Van Damme movie of the month so far, and I feel like at the end of the month, I'm going to be the premier authority on JCVD movies, maybe even more so than the man himself. But it's been wild.
Yeah, I can imagine. And when having so many movies to choose from, I was hard pressed picking this one because I have a lot of his are really, really good. Like Cyborg rivals Time Cop with my favorite.
Wow. Okay.
I know, it's crazy. People think it's crazy. They're like, "Wow, how can you even like Cyborg?" It's good. It's good.
I recorded a bonus episode on Cyborg because I
Yes.
wasn't sure schedule wise. I was like, if anybody wants to jump in and record, I'll take what I can get and then release it as bonus episodes, stuff that's outside of like my planned timeline.
Mhm.
So I got to do Cyborg. I got to go back and watch Cyborg and realize that I basically had only really seen like half of it or like 2/3 because I would always watch it on cable. So I almost always missed the beginning. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, now he's going into the sewer. I remember this part. And then from there, it was a lot more familiar. So it was nice to go back and watch that with fresh eyes and see how like unique and bizarre and read all of like the behind the scenes production notes on like how and why that film got made and how it almost
Yeah.
didn't. And it's supposed to be Masters of the Universe 2. And that's not even close to what that movie is. So it's a
Right.
wild, wild adventure.
Yeah, the thing about his movies is he for some reason in the majority of his films, because I think I've seen them all,
Mhm.
is the villains are always you love to hate them. They're such good villains.
Yeah, and that is still the case in this film with Ron Silver, who is fantastic in this movie. And I had to think, like, what happened to his career after this? Because I feel like he's probably the best part of the movie, like competency wise as an actor. And he plays a great villain role. And he sort of was in his heyday like a couple years before this. Like Blue Steel, I think was what, 91, 92,
Mhm.
something like that. So he was sort of like in his prime. And then he made a bunch of, like I would say, lesser or more ill-received films beyond this, and then unfortunately he passed in 2009. But I would have liked to see a lot more of this kind of stuff from him.
Oh, he plays a piece of shit
He
beautifully.
does. He really does. I'm like, wow. I was like, he really nailed the like smarmy, shitty politician thing to a
Yeah.
T.
Yeah, totally.
So you were about to tell me like why this movie. I think Van Damme's got like 100 titles under his belt. Some of them where he's the star, some of them where he sort of just has his face on the poster in order to move units and he's not really heavily involved. But during his heyday, he still has quite a few to choose from. So what about this movie in particular makes it so special to you?
So I was working at like a Blockbuster at the time, and it was the hot property. And I remember just renting it and not doing what I do now, not criticizing and picking it apart, just rolling with it. And it was so much fun. And so the nostalgia factor is there for through the years because I bought it on DVD, etc. But also it to me has, and we'll get to it, the single best Van Damme scene in any movie of his is in
Ooh.
this film.
Okay, I'm very curious to hear. And, before I put this on, having watched maybe 6 or 7 up to this point, I was like, if you were to sort of watch Van Damme movies with a group of friends and make a drinking game out of every time he does the splits or takes his clothes off, you would be shit faced by the end of the film because every movie almost, except for like, uh, I don't know, like of the ones that I've watched recently, there's only maybe one where he doesn't disrobe. So
Yeah.
it would be a fun drinking game, but also people would be blacked out, I think, after a couple.
I can appreciate that he does that in his movies, especially ripping off his shirt or wearing tank tops all the time because he's got what my husband calls a bad lid. Like I don't like his face from the
Uh,
neck up. He's got a bad lid, but the arms and the thighs all day. Please disrobe, sir.
I mean, he obviously spends a lot of time and effort on his body, or at least when he was in his prime. That was like his bread and butter, right? He said, I want to show off my muscles and my physique. And that's like part of what you get when you buy the Van Damme package. So it's not surprising to see it, but it is sort of like surprising the way it pops up in certain movies where it's like it's coming out of nowhere and boom. Oh, I didn't expect to see his ass, but there it is. Uh, And I mean, there's something to be said for that, to have just like, I guess, the confidence in a business that is very focused on how people look. And I mean, there's been the thing going around social media lately of one of the new actors in Jurassic Park, like training for Jurassic Park, and he's lifting weights. And it's like, what are you training for? Like, are you going to splits kick the dinosaur in the face? Like, I don't think so. If it was a Van Damme movie, then yes, I would understand, because he's going to roundhouse kick a velociraptor at some point in that version of Jurassic Park. But that's not the case here. So, like, why are actors being asked to like overtrain for roles like that where it's not necessary? It's like, okay, this guy's gonna be in a tank top in the jungle. You just want his arms to look good. Like, okay, I get that, but it doesn't seem necessary in the way that, at least in Van Damme flicks, he's usually a fighter. So
Mhm.
you want him to at least look the part. And especially in comparison to a guy like, I would say, Steven Seagal, right? He's almost always completely buttoned up in what he's wearing. Whether it's like an
Yeah.
officer's uniform or he's like dressed as a chef, like most of his movies, like he's doing a lot of like quick hand manipulation. It's not about the physique of the character. And so when you look at Van Damme in the context of guys like Schwarzenegger and Stallone, who were very massive and were always showing off like their biceps for the most part, I think Van
Yeah.
Damme's brand started to sort of form itself that way, and that he's like, well, I'm going to take my shirt off and my pants off, and you guys can really get a look at like how fucking big my ass and legs are, because that's one thing that these other guys aren't showing off, and that can be what makes me separated amongst these action stars.
He wants to be appreciated, and I'm happy to do it.
You're not the only one.
Right? Box office numbers will back that up.
Oh wow. So, Time Cop is a movie that for me for a long time too was one of my favorites. And I think growing up I had seen the premiere of this film at, not like the premiere where Van Damme was there, but like a press screening early, like before it released to the public. And so when I was beginning to see these kinds of movies, like beginning to get exposed to sci-fi ideas, I really latched onto that kind of stuff. And I feel like the DNA of this movie is still pretty compelling for me. Like it's on this show for a reason, right? It has an IMDb score of 5.9, which is respectable. Its Metascore is 48. Rotten Tomato critic score is 42. Audience score is 36. Letterbox is 2.9, so close to the IMDb score. But that gives us a Bad Movies We Love total score of 42.8 out of 100. So not the worst I've done this month even, but well within the range of what I can say is like, watching it as objectively as I can see the weaknesses of why somebody would say that it is a bad movie. But I'm curious for you, what is your general assessment on why people think this is a bad movie?
So for me, I haven't watched this in quite a while. I like to space it out when I really love a movie, so I don't really remember everything.
Hmm.
And I had forgotten, I think the reason is I have forgotten how fuzzy and not good the science is in this movie. And I think at the time, especially, people might have been like, Back to the Future did it better. Like they
Yeah.
explained it better. This movie, very fuzzy, very sketchy, very loosey goosey with how this all works. And I think that's the drawback, because it is a kick-ass action film. It's
Yeah.
Van Damme, working his prime. It's got a good story. It's got good characters, I think. Great villain. I mean, a hero is only as compelling as his villain. So this movie has it all except that. Like the math doesn't work for me. I think it didn't work for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, because there is sort of the first instance we get of, we'll call it science for the sake of this conversation, uh they're like, you can't go back and you can't just like change things in the past because it'll mess up the future. Okay, we'll buy into that. And two objects cannot coexist in the same space, so like if you run into the past version of yourself, like you'll just disappear into a black hole or something. And so like those are the two general principles that the TEC, the Time Enforcement Commission, basically operates on. But what I found like extra fuzzy watching it this time was that it seems like none of the people that work for the TEC understand those rules, because anytime anyone time travels and something small changes, one side of the equation that should understand that, like, hey, time travel happened, something small may have changed. None of them seem to understand that at all. And it's like, wait a second, this is your job and you have explained the rules to other people. So you
Mhm.
should know that you sent someone on a time travel mission, they came back, and you guys are disagreeing on small details. Something changed, right? Like one of the two of you should just be able to figure that out. But it's like, I think it just left room for the writers to put in exposition where it needed to be, or to like make the
Mhm.
characters more relatable. So it's not something that ruined the movie for me, but I did find myself asking, like, is there a scientist like anywhere on the team, or is there like police chief, beat cop who volunteered? Because yeah, we learned that the leader of the TEC, or whoever the head of the commission is, played by McGill, Matuzak, sorry, he was a Washington police captain, and Max was just like a beat cop, and so they didn't really put scientists in charge of this project.
Well, the police side of it, not so much.
Yeah.
And you made a really good point. The director of the whole flippin' program, you would think when somebody comes back from traveling that you sent them on, they might remember things differently. Like, why wouldn't you just assume that's the case every time?
Yeah, I
Bananas.
guess, hey, they're gonna follow the rules to a T. They're not gonna touch anything. But you should know, as the time travel authority, that even the act of this person going back is going to change at least something very small. And to the movie's credit, I think I buy into the time travel idea because we start in the past. We jump into right near the tail end of the Civil War. It's 1863, and that's a good cold open because you sort of get the juxtaposition of not only the past, but these Confederates that you don't want to see win. And then they're confronted with other bad guys. And so you just get an excuse for a nice like shootout there in the beginning. You get to see some big laser sighted guns that, they're probably way too big. I don't think the guy needed two of them to take down, a couple guys with muskets, but he brought heavy artillery to that fight. And so we start in a place where I'm very interested in the movie
Yeah.
early on. I'm like, okay, I'm buying into this. And then I think the next time we see them go back into the past, it's, maybe the 1920s, or maybe like
Mhm.
right before the Great Depression. And
Mhm.
so you're seeing different sort of opportunists take advantage of moments in time where easy wealth is available. And I like the idea of that. I'm not super sold on like how that wealth was used, because it seems like if you really have the power to time travel, like stealing Confederate gold is maybe not the best use of your time travel abilities, but I feel like you could have way more influence just like working politics throughout the course of history than stealing gold outright. But
Mhm.
that leads me to our synopsis haiku, because I told you this is something that we do on the show now. We haven't done it since the last time you've been here. I've only recently folded it in. So here we go.
Okay.
Wealth stolen from time, used to fund election crime, fight for the love that died. It's not great, but it's okay.
I like it.
I trapped myself in rhyming it, and then I couldn't find my way out at the end. I was like, I shouldn't have insisted on making it rhyme, but here we are. And let's figure it out. And he does get to go back in the past and finally have that moment of catharsis with his wife
Yes.
who was murdered. And we get to have all the tie-ins there. And I feel like for most time travel movies, they're a lot more focused on, we'll call it like closing the circle, right?
Hmm.
And a time travel incident happens, the circle opens, or there's a break in the circle. And the majority of the movie is spent like trying to ensure that the audience makes sure that that circle gets closed, or if it doesn't, that we're aware that the circle is broken. And so in this, I feel like it's more action forward than other sci-fi and time travel films, in the sense that it's much more focused on the fight scenes, the explosions, like keeping the pace up and showcasing Van Damme, than it is really explaining time travel to the audience, or having them buy into the ideas associated with time travel in a way that sort of creates sticking points, you know?
So I think what they did was, and I noticed this on this last watch because I was being super critical, is that they make it a point to say things 3 or 4 times, like
Mhm.
two things can't occupy the same space. And they say that like 3 times so that when it happens at the end, we're like, oh, yeah, they said that. So they definitely try to make sure the rules that they are laying out are told to us and make sense to us for what's going to come later. I think that that happened. Now, like, a lot of effort went into making sure we understood the rules they were laying out, but then they would change the rules later, which frustrated me. Because this movie was a contender for my show because it's a turkey, like you were saying with the scores.
Yeah.
And so I was contemplating covering this on my show, so I'm glad I don't have to because I really ripped stuff apart there. At least I could be a little forgiving with yours.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about having fun and
Yeah.
really celebrating sort of like the silliness that exists within these movies. And I will say that even though, like, I think the most recent time I watched it was probably like year, maybe 2 years ago. And when I watched it that time, I was like, this movie's way worse than I thought when I was younger. And then when I watched it this time, my brain was like, it wasn't as bad as the last time I watched it. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening, if I was like more prepared for the weak spots, or maybe some of the other Van Damme movies that I've watched over the last month. Like I
Yeah.
just did Street Fighter, and I'm like, yeah, Street Fighter has a
Oof.
ton of weaknesses. I would even say that Cyborg has a lot of weaknesses as well.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
this seems like a competent film. It's a Universal Pictures movie, and
Well, you
it
know it's from comic books, right?
yeah, it was a Dark Horse comic, right?
Yes, sir. And the guy that worked on it, Mike Richardson, actually worked on the film.
Oh, did he?
So that makes sense that it would kind of translate a little more competent.
Yeah, so I think when you maybe, not just that it's an adaptation in comparison to like a Street Fighter, but that a movie like Street Fighter has these like big tonal swings, like this huge tonal pendulum where it's like, oh, over here Raul Julia is playing Shakespeare, and on the other side there's bags labeled mutagens, and it's like, all right, well, I guess mutagens make mutants, and okay. So like you have these huge swings between each side of that movie, and this is like, whether or not everything works, it still is fairly narrowly scoped, so that it has an identity, it knows that identity, and it wants to stick to what that identity is. And so it's like I see the hallmarks of competent filmmaking. I feel like Van Damme even gives fairly good dramatic moments in this movie
Agreed.
when applicable. It feels like it was designed to be a little bit less punchy for him, in the way that a lot of his other movies want to focus on his sense of humor and use those one-liners. They are here in moments, but it feels a lot more
Yeah.
stripped down. And when I watch something like Universal Soldier or Hard Target, where he's given a female companion that he is essentially protecting, there is like either an attraction or an outright romance between them. This movie, he's actually married. Like, you give his character someone to actually have an invested relationship with. And I think that goes a long way for him, that a lot of these other movies don't. I mean, Street Fighter is one of those too, where they show a brief video of him in Street Fighter where it looks like he's sitting down with his wife, and then there's no mention of a partner throughout the rest of the film. So you don't have anything for him to latch onto dramatically to actually show you whether or not he does have dramatic acting chops. And so I think it's a little bit unfair in those movies, but I like that this movie toned it down and tried to like play it as serious and straightforward as possible. And I think that's one of the things that made me like it so much in his overall body of work.
I really like that they give him the opportunity to show us his character as far as he knows he can't alter time. He knows once she dies, he's not supposed to mess with that. Too bad, so sad. But then when he finds out that she was carrying his little Brussels sprout, he just decides to alter time. He's like, I've got to save her now that I know she was pregnant. Right. And so I like that we get to see he struggles with that, but he's like, ooh, she was pregnant. I got to save her.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's like he adheres to the notion of being like an actual noble cop for a long time of like, I want to do my job. I know that there's people that are corrupt around me. I know that there's people that are abusing the technology that we have. And rather than use it for my own personal vendetta, my goal is to make sure that other people aren't abusing this. And he has a line in the movie where he says, if I can't go back and save my wife, like I'm not letting this guy go back and steal money. And so you get a glimpse into his character who is haunted by this thing that happened to him. And I think more haunted by the fact that the technology exists for him to do something about it, yet he is handcuffed himself to the notions of being a good cop, when I think that if this kind of story is told today, the motivations of adhering to your role as a police officer are far less front-facing. This same character today would be written with like, I'm not even considering being a good cop anymore. Like, I'm going back in time to save my wife. And I feel like the audience would be like, yes, this is the right decision at this time. Where in 94, there's still so many movies that are coming out on a regular basis at that time that are like, police are the central figure and like the cops are good guys and being on the side of the police is the right thing. So it's an interesting shift from, 30 years ago to now where I don't feel like this story gets told in the same way if it were made today.
Do you love that for 1994, their future in this movie is 2004?
In 10 years, we figured out time travel. It just happened. We put enough government funding into it and we're good.
It was like, what? I forgot that it was really 20 years ago. What?
I'm curious if on the page it was like, all right, well, we want a 30-year difference, but then we don't have the makeup budget to really make Van Damme look old. And if we advance it 30 years, how is a 60-year-old Van Damme going to be like a capable fighter? So like 10 years is a long enough amount where it's like, it seems long to young people. But also like he will still basically look like he's 30. And so we don't have to do any like de-aging. Like we maybe do a little gray in Ron Silver's beard. But other than that, you just change the suit. And it's like, oh, it went from like double-breasted to single-breasted. And that's the future right there. Oh,
and the hair. Don't forget, in the future, apparently we have bad decision-making skills when it comes to haircuts because everyone's got a mullet, including him, to show that he's aged.
Yeah, I guess he went extensions with this mullet because I think his mullet in Hard Target was a real mullet. At least it looked real, but for this, he decided to bring the mullet back. And, 2004 is not the year of the mullet, but it's always interesting to see older movies predict the future and to see, hey, these are the trends that we think. And one of those was like, oh, we're going to give him a futuristic watch. And it's like, it's a Casio. Like, you didn't try super hard. You just gave him a digital watch.
That's so true.
Oh. Okay, well, I think now's probably a good time where we go back and take a look at the trailer. Where did I put that? There it is. Before we get to the trailer, it's time for a quick word from today's sponsor. If you're anything like me, you probably find yourself thinking, there just aren't enough hours in the day. Unfortunately, time travel hasn't been invented yet, and we can't add hours to the day or freeze time. But now we can speed you up with Time Crunch, the new energy bar from Verheiden Pharmaceuticals. Each bar starts with a base of crispy puffed wild rice and is covered in decadent organic dark chocolate, so you'll get all those superfood benefits like flavanols, antioxidants, and plenty of vitamins to go with the delicious flavor and texture. Plus, Time Crunch is the only energy bar on the market that contains Adderall to give you that competitive edge when you're facing a looming deadline. So when you're feeling pressed for time, don't let the clock police your life. Reach for a Time Crunch and stay ahead of the curve, because there's never enough time. And now, back to the show.
I've never seen the trailer for this, so I'm excited.
Oh, excellent. Okay, can you see that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Turn that volume down so we're not deaf after this. Show us some CGI to start.
Go, Max. I'm not hurting anybody.
Got to take you back. In the year 2004, time travel is a reality.
You're charged with violations of TEC code 40.8, time travel with intent to alter the future.
And a crime.
It turns out going back in time is a pretty easy way to make money.
I think you got yourself a shipment of gold and you're taking to General Lee.
I love that guy's commitment to pulling his tooth out.
Technology is there.
Now, man,
You ever hear the name Aaron McComb?
is about to take the ultimate power trip.
He's gonna be president.
You don't need the press, you don't need endorsements, you don't even need the truth. You need money.
But to enforce the laws
So
of
the
time,
henchmen in this are very henchman looking.
Am I dead?
one man is determined to stop him.
I cannot go back to save her. This scumbag is not going back to steal money.
Stay here, Walker. My future, you're dead.
I think you planned too far ahead.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Ron Silver. Mia Sara.
Best scene in any Van Damme movie.
My guess is you're referring to the splits in the kitchen.
Kitchen splits.
All right, that looks like fun. I want to watch it again.
Yep, sold.
Okay, so why is the kitchen splits the best scene in all the Van Damme movies?
Because I appreciate a well-rounded ass. Not gonna lie. He is in peak physical condition. He's wearing almost nothing, doing the splits, holding it for us to appreciate like he wants us to.
Yeah, this is a fair assessment, I would say. And, having seen Universal Soldier, like he's completely butt naked except for his socks in that. And so you get a good view of his ass. In Bloodsport, he like is putting his little tighty whities on except for the like maroon. So it's like a love scene and he's just like putting his underwear on. And I started thinking, I was like, is there a movie where he doesn't show his ass? I mean, did he get to a certain age and he was like, yeah, it's just not worth it anymore. But yeah, his brand is showing off like his physicality, whether that be the kicks, whether that be the splits, whether that be the muscles, whatever. Like that kind of is how he shaped his brand. And I'm sure somewhere in his contract, he's like, look, we're doing the splits in this movie. Okay. Like this is not up for negotiation. Like if I'm in your movie, you're paying me to do the splits and that is what it's going to be. Yeah.
Well, I feel like for a minute he didn't use. I was like, I don't know. Did he use a body double? Him and Mia Sara both when they're making the beast with two backs in the opening there. I'm like, are they body doubles? But I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And she. Like in Ferris Bueller, she sort of like has like she changes really quick, right? And Cameron sees her. So it's not like this prolonged moment and it's not really sexual. I mean, a little bit it is, but it's like high school sexualized where it's like a kid saw boobs and he's excited about that. In this, it's like it's a real love scene between the two of them, which is also a little surprising because most of the other Van Damme movies I've watched, like they don't actually have moments like that. So I think it gives him tenderness. What I would have liked is more of her character because his relationship to her is the catalyst for like why he does all the things that he does. So if we exist in a space where we only see a very limited engagement of the two of them on screen, it's hard to cheer for them as much as I want to, but I still want to, and I think that's important.
Well, they give us the movie trope of because my husband was watching this with me, and I turned to my husband, I said, why is he doing that to himself? Would you do that? And my husband's like, no. He puts on a video of her making a birdhouse, and you can see that it's his ritual. Every night he comes home, cracks open a beer, watches the video of the wife. Like, that's a movie trope that's supposed to let us know how important it all is.
Yeah, that he's mourning and he's grieving.
Right. Still. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the first time that we see them together is in the mall. And he comes up behind her, very creepy. He's like, there's never enough time. And she says, the way he says, to satisfy a woman.
The only person that could pull that off to me would be Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, like it seems weird for Van Damme to I mean, like, I understand, but yeah, it doesn't come across like suave for him exactly. And then right after that, like, his wife makes fun of him not really being able to speak English that well, which is, I think, one of the only times in his movie career where that was like on the page, because there's a conversation I've been having over the course of this where I'm like, yeah, from the 80s to like 2000s, like, his accent didn't clean up to the point where you really like had it improve. Like, it seems like it stayed the same. And it seems like it's like this very measured, like, deep accent.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I like that she clowns him about English, and he tells her, like, he's like, well, I know all the good words. And she's like, all right, well, let's go home and you can put some of those good words to the test. So, like, I think they're cute together. And I really just wanted to see them as a couple so that when it gets taken away, that matters more, because that happens all very, very fast. Like, we're introduced to him, we're introduced to them. We see that he can stick his foot in a guy's face. So it's like, all right, we're showcasing the kicking skills already.
The purse snatcher kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which he just sees a rollerblader in the mall and he's like, this kid's up to no good. Let me go hunt him down. This is before the purse snatching even happened. So he's got a good eye for crime. And then they embrace at the clock shop. And then they go home and they have sex. And then that night, all the shit hits the fan, and she's out of the picture for the rest of the movie until the last 20 minutes or so, maybe even less.
Well, it's only an hour 39, so they had to really, keep the pace up and move along.
Yeah, so
I think that's why.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, when I saw the runtime, I was like, oh, sub 2 hours. Awesome. I mean, that's like one of my favorite things probably about his body of work is that it's all mostly very efficient with time. I'm never there for 2.5 hours. And I feel like just she's a better actress than we got to see from this role, and more of them together, I think, probably makes their, when they reunite in the end, I think it makes it play better, because when they do finally see each other again, like, we're back at that moment in the mall. So we're like reliving that one scene that we already went through with the two of them. So I feel like, okay, like, I get it. We time traveled, but like, we don't have to go back to the exact same point in time. Although I think he gave the guy the instructions to like send me back so that I can go meet her at the mall that day.
Probably. He liked that bit so much, the sneak up on her.
He did, How do you feel now, like, in terms of how the VFX aged? Because this was at a time where CGI was still sort of in its infancy. It hadn't really been refined to the way that we use it now. There's still a lot of like big explosions in this movie, a lot of like real pyro, real fire. And it's at that window in time where we're sort of crossing over from practical effects to like full CGI for a lot of this stuff. So how do you feel that held up CGI wise over these years?
So for me, all of the scenes that show the actual time travel, where that little bubble appears and disappears that people and devices go through, held up for me. Yeah. It was the green screen stuff of the two Ron Silvers together and, Van Damme ducking under that semi. Anything that was like green screen just looks terrible to me. But the time travel itself looked really cool. I thought it held up.
Yeah, I like that because when you think of the way that other films have described time travel of like a tear in space time or the fabric of space time, right? Like it feels that way. Like it feels like you're breaking through some sort of membrane to do this time travel. And I like the way that looks. I like the design of the sled. And I even like the design of like the hangar where all that is built. It's sort of like Stargate.
Okay, so for me, that vehicle that they use to actually travel in, fuzzy on the science as far as they're
Oh,
in
for
it to
sure.
leave, and then they're not in it when they arrive at the destination, and then they're in it when they come back. All fuzzy. However, I thought the vehicle itself looked like a colonial viper from Battlestar Galactica. I was like, did they repurpose that? What's happening there?
At least if you're going to rip off a well-tested science fiction property and make it look good. But I had the same question. Where did the car go when you time travel? It just pops up in the middle of the road. Okay, time travel vehicle is gone. You're
Mhm.
there. Now it's time to go back and you show back up in the car. But how did that happen? Like, if it were like a time band where, hey, this thing that you wear is going to slide you back or forwards in time, like, hey, that's always on you, right? And it
Mhm.
seems like one of those things that happens in production where it's like they know that the action of traveling through time looks cool. We have to show that because it looks cool. And then when they get there, well, oh well, we haven't thought that far ahead, but we get the moments where it looks cool, and that's really what matters. And the more I think about it, I think a lot of decisions that happen in film, especially the more I do this show, I'm
Mhm.
99% sure that a lot of decisions that get made in film is like, does it look cool? And if it does, we'll find a way to keep it. We'll find a way to make it part of what we're doing here. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, it's very fuzzy on how he would theoretically appear back in the car coming back to the future, or just the car materializes as it time travels and he's ejected into the middle of a road where if you're going to choose to go back in time in the first place, especially to go back to the mall to see your wife at that time, why is your landing destination in the middle of a highway? Or is that just because okay, they shot up the control panel, but if that's the case, like the time travel maybe doesn't work at that point. You maybe end up in the wrong year. You're too early, you're too late. I would have liked to see something like that get explored more so than, oh, we're back at the
Oh.
mall.
Right, right. Like a major screw up where he winds up in some way wrong time or place. That would have been fun. But again, not a lot of time
Yeah,
to
no.
show that.
Look, we have to go back to the mall, okay? He's got to meet his
Yes.
wife because we only have 40 minutes left and we got to get this done.
Yes, got to save her and the little Brussels sprout. Got to do it.
Yeah. And speaking of time, I'm not like the most familiar with the speed of tasers firing, but it seems like if they shoot that slow, they're not going to be effective because they miss every single time. I mean, this guy woke up from a dead sleep, dodged a taser shot. He was then lying in a puddle of water. The taser fires, and he has time to bench press himself off the floor all the way up into a splits on his kitchen counter, and the guy electrocutes himself. Like, this taser is super ineffective, and I'm pretty sure if you're holding on to somebody who is actively being tased, you will also receive that electrical charge. So you can't use somebody as
Yes.
a human shield against a taser. But all of
Yep.
these things happen. The taser science is very weak here.
I feel like all of the science is very. They did what you said. They went, well, this will look really fucking cool. So who cares?
He goes, "Do you trust me? I'm gonna do the splits in my kitchen." I've been
And I
working
just
on it.
say yes.
It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten a little bit better as I've done more and more of this month, and I feel like I hear it in my head. It just doesn't come out the right way. But I do feel like for the most part, the the theoretical ideas around the policing of time travel was
Mhm.
well handled. I like that you have somebody who goes back in time. He sees, hey, this person made a unauthorized jump because we can track that. We found him. Now I'm in his office and we're going to arrest him. And then when I found they go to trial basically and they execute him for his time crimes, I like that their execution is like, hey, we're just going to drop you right outside of this building that you were working at. and you're going to fall to your death, like all these other people who I'm assuming around Depression era were committing suicide for big financial loss reasons.
Oh, it was the
And
crash of the stock market.
yeah, and so we have that character walking into the office and seeing people dying in the very beginning, and he's just like, "Nah, whatever. It's Tuesday. Like, I didn't invest right." And then when he dies in the same way, I started thinking, like, are these other people that jumped also people that violated time code and were executed in that way? And this is only the first guy that we're seeing, or in order to blend in with the environment, they're choosing to execute him in a way that looks like suicide to match the time period.
This scene is way more fun than it has any right to be, as far
Mhm.
as, yeah, the whole opening and explaining how this is all working. But the problem I have is the guy, the doorman, who's standing there watching numerous people just fall to their death on these cars. He doesn't think anything of it, that they're screaming ah as they're falling, and then they disappear because they time travel away. And then I don't know how long later, how much time has elapsed, he suddenly reappears and falls to his death. And the doorman's like, "Oh, poor soul," or whatever. It's like, did you not realize there was a break from when he jumped to when he hit the car? Like, it was very weird.
It's just another screamer.
But the thing that was funny about that afterward is my husband just goes, yeah, the science here doesn't work. And I said, well, yeah, the science doesn't work for any of it. He goes, well, no, like the law of velocity, like they wouldn't be able to fall like that. And I don't know. I was just like, I'm going to chalk it up to everything's fuzzy in this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm probably least concerned with is the falling science in there. I mean, like, I'm not a, gravity scientist here, but it's like, okay, they're falling. I get that part of it, but I feel like at least the ambition and the execution was there for this movie, because not only are you going back to the Civil War era, so it's like, all right, we need to rent horses, we need to get a buggy, we need somewhat authentic Civil War era costumes. And then we're going to go back to the 1930s and we're going to do the same thing. And like, so we need to shoot in a location that looks good. We need costume authenticity for a bunch of extras, and we need like the streets to look right. Like, these are big things to take on. And I think one of the things that a lot of other time travel movies don't always do, especially when you're a little bit smaller scale. It's like you want to go back only maybe a few years, or only go back where it's like, hey, we just took cell phones away from people. And it's like that signifies 15 to 20 years in some cases. So for this movie to put Van Damme at the forefront of a movie where you're going to like have these big ideas, but then he's not the one who does travel back really to like participate in these time periods. He just polices them. It gives you enough of a bubble around him to keep him the star without having all these other stories to explain of like, how does he exist in 1930 and not get home? How did he go back to the Civil War era and exist there, like having that kind of accent at the time? So I like that it keeps him and that story self-contained, but I also like, I understand why this spawned a TV show, because I think the ideas are interesting, and taking that character and putting him in these other places where maybe he doesn't just teleport into the guy's office. Maybe he actually has to work to find this guy. He has to do some police work as a time cop rather than just show up and be announcing he's under arrest. So
he's not a detective now. He's he's a beat cop.
Fair enough. He is not. The movie is not Time Detective. It's Time Cop.
Another 27 million will make that one.
Exactly. But I do feel that like some of these ideas were expressed pretty well, and I didn't ever think that the movie was particularly political, despite the fact that the villain is running for president, despite the fact that they're like, when they go back in time, they're going to like rob a Confederacy convoy. That when they're going back to the 1930s, it's like you have people that are investing while everybody else is just like basically killing themselves over losing their life savings. And then you have the villain expressly say like it's going to be like, at least like the 80s all over again. So he's like, hey, it's going to be like Reagan era politics where the top 10% get super wealthy and everybody else can go live a better life in Mexico. And so like I never really connected the thread when I was younger, thinking that this movie had anything political to say at all. And I think that it actually does. It's just not the kind of film where it's like we want to lecture you about politics. It's like we want to very clearly make the stance of this particular person unbecoming, and then that's enough to fuel all the other like trickle down storylines that are coming from this guy wanting to be president.
The thing that stuck out to me the most in all of that was when he says, well, we've got to get the money. And he slams that guy's head in the car to make him all jumpy and nervous every time he raises his hand to eat a peanut. I was cracking up. But he gives the little speech about, we need the money because it cost $50 million to get airtime to win this election. And I just went, wow, like add $1 billion to that. And that's what it is now. Like, that's crazy to me, just crazy.
Yeah, it's just like if you're a villain who has access to time travel and you want power, it's like consolidating money from the past seems like you could do it and do it in a way where like you don't even need to be the president. Like you might maybe even be more powerful as just like a lobbyist or somebody in the private sector at that point. But the ego of the character wants to be president. It's the hubris that makes Ron Silver's character such a good villain in this.
And ultimately brings him down.
Of course, because that's what it is, It's like it's the arrogance, You hire these very henchman-looking henchmen, a guy who like shaved his sideburns like all the way up to the top of his skull. I was like, is this guy like a punk? Is he supposed to look like what the perception of a criminal would look like in 1994? Is he a future criminal that's now time traveled back and that's why he looks weird? But these guys stand out in a crowd. And if you're committing major time crimes, it seems like blending in would be your best bet.
Yes, they were like right out of Blade Runner or something. Yeah. I was like, you are not conspicuous.
They're not. I
mean, inconspicuous? Conspicuous. I don't know. Anyway,
they
stick out.
They're very spicuous. But yeah, he's wearing like metal shin covers on his boots. Like, I'm like,
what?
Yeah, I'm like, this is a weird like cyberpunk choice here, and it just feels like these guys are part of a different movie. But when you want them to like look villainous, it works, and they are definitely very like off-putting to look at. So you kind of already want Van Damme to beat them up. And when we're exposed to them in the past, like, yeah, they're committing horrible acts of violence. So it's very easy to get behind those guys getting their asses kicked, where it's like, I still, you want that for everybody else in the movie. And Silver just sort of avoids the Van Damme confrontation for almost the whole movie until he gets in his own way, as a smug time traveling prick would.
Yes, but those are some of my favorite scenes, honestly, is whenever he's on screen.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I think his charisma in that role is just undeniable. And like, I was trying to think when we first meet him at the TEC and he's like taking a tour of the facility, I'm like, do we already know that he's the villain at this point? Because I think he was named by the stock market guy, right? He said that, but I thought he said that somebody is paying me and I can't tell you his name. I thought that was specifically the conversation that they had. And he's like, they'll kill me if I tell you his name. And in his trial, did he name this person by name? Because it was the whole thing about the witness is dead. We can't bust Ron Silver.
So he gives it up before he brings him back to present time to be prosecuted. Gotcha. And so Van Damme knows it. And that's why at the trial, he's going, don't you have something to say? Come on, say something. And the guy's all clammed up because Van Damme knows who it is.
Yeah, because when they first introduced Ron Silver into the TEC environment, I was like, this is so villainous. Like everything about it, like he's not even playing the character as if he's the good guy in it. Like in a lot of movies where the politician is like the secret bad guy, there's always a character who's like high ranking that seems like they're on your side and isn't really on your side. But in this, as soon as he walks in there, he's just like smug as all hell and so villainous that him and Van Damme are basically having a conversation about how he's the villain. Yet you can't prove it. They're both just like, I know it's me and you know it's me, but guess what? You can't say it out loud because you can't prove it. And I'm just going to like force my way into your life and make sure that like I push the button on whatever task force you're working on just to mess with you because I know that you know that I know that you know that I know. So
Exactly what that scene is. It's
yeah,
so good.
yeah, and like the way he chews up the scenery there really is just it's a lot of fun. And I don't know. I just was like, I think I need to go and watch more Ron Silver stuff from the 90s because like his body of
Mhm.
work after this, like he kept working, up until he died basically, but his the sort of the ratings on the movies that came after this were all pretty ill received. So I would like to see him more when he's on top of his game. But we had mentioned the ugly dudes, the ugly henchmen dudes from the future. The future cars in this movie are maybe the ugliest future cars I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they don't make much of an effort to make the future, except for the cars, look like the future.
Yeah, the car is self-driving and it
Mhm.
looks like a motherboard with wheels. And they're like, okay, well, that's the future, but everything else is exactly the same 10 years from now, except for that we invented time travel and have not taken advantage of that at all.
I know. The car reminded me of, like, the Johnny Cab from Total Recall.
Yeah, but it made the Johnny Cab look like it was designed in 2024. That's how bad this car looked. And I was just amazed by it. I'm like, wow, you're really gonna go through the effort of like designing a car. And I'm not sure if the idea was, hey, let's make a car that looks futuristic, or let's make a car that in a world where like there's sort of an arrested development around progress, like this, it's self-driving, but designs haven't changed for really anything. And then I think of a movie like Upgrade, where that has self-driving cars that are sort of self-contained in the same way, but that was a movie made a handful of years ago where the car still looks like it's 20 years newer than the one that they showed us in this movie. So I'm curious if it was like limited by the design applications of the 90s, or if it was like, hey, we intentionally want it to look weird in a way that stands out in comparison to everything else in this world that's basically the same.
So, yes, I think you're right about standing out. I also had to look at, the budget was only 27 million, and obviously a lot went into the CGI, the special effects. So I don't feel like they had a whole lot where they could have made the whole world zhuzhed up futuristically. They had to just kind of be like, let's just do the car
Yeah.
because we don't have the budget to make a whole world.
Disassemble that vacuum cleaner and then glue it to the outside of the car. That
Yes.
yeah, it looks like that in some cases, and it's like, look, I'm not trying to be mean to the design team. They did a lot of really good stuff here, but like the cars just like stand out in such an awkward way in comparison to everything else. Where I feel like, it's maybe like a less is more thing where, in like RoboCop, right? It's made in 1987,
Mhm.
and even that car, while it's basically just a sedan, ended up looking like what the Chevy Volt kind of looked like in 2015. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
30 years before the Volt is out, RoboCop has designed a car that sort of looks like that. And so for a movie in 87 to be able to do that in a way that like a movie in 1994 couldn't think far enough ahead. But I mean, I guess if they're only going to 2004, they're not trying to think that far ahead.
The movies in the 90s did that. Like, what year was Street Fighter?
94.
Okay, because see the boat that they travel in that had the
Yeah.
same shell, like the same vibe. So I feel
Yeah.
like in the 90s, they kinda all did that when they wanted to look futuristic or different.
Yeah, I'm curious if they borrowed that boat because there was that like Hulk Hogan show on TV. I forgot what it was called, but he was like in the military and they had a boat. It's like it wasn't Tropic Thunder, but it was something like that.
Huh.
Let me look it up before I forget. I
Hulk
don't.
Hogan was on TV other than his reality show?
Oh my goodness, yes. I feel like there's gonna be a whole Hulk Hogan month at some point on this show because his body of work is surprisingly long. As much
Mhm.
as like as weird as that is, and like he's not even a good actor, but it was when he
Was it
first switched to WCW. He
Uh-huh.
had a TV show that also had some TV movies, Thunder in Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise 1 season.
Mhm.
I wonder why.
Yeah, but they had a boat like the one in Street Fighter, and Thunder in Paradise is 1993. So I'm curious if they're just like, hey, you know what's in? Boats.
Yeah.
Cool looking boats.
Boats.
Can we afford an airplane and fly in Thailand? No. All right. Well, boats it is.
Boats.
I mean, well, that's Street Fighter, which, I just spent 2 hours talking about on the last episode and was a lot of fun. But we're talking Timecop here, and I think now's a good time to do some trivia if you're interested.
Sure.
All right, let's fire up the trivia.
Time for trivia.
Okay, I think you're pretty well researched. So what I've done is that well, so at the end of the show, I would typically ask, like, hey, what's a good, like, gateway drug kind of movie for this? And so that is now one of many questions. And based on the number of trivia answers you get correct, you will get that many spins on the wheel of questions at the end of the show. How does that sound?
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
All right.
Let's do some Van Damme-age.
All right. Question number 1. Director Peter Hyams, whose son actually directed Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning, which we just covered for Film Club, Van Damme movie. Peter Hyams worked with Van Damme on 2 other films. What are those films?
I want to say I researched him because we did The Relic on my show.
Ooh.
It's Sudden Death.
Yes.
And is it Hard Target?
No, not Hard Target. The second one was Enemies Closer, another sort of generic-y action name.
Okay. Well, I got one.
You did. You got one. Okay, so question 2. As of 2024, Timecop is still the highest grossing Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and it is the only one of his movies to break which box office threshold?
100 million?
Bingo. Look at that. 2 for 2. It ended up grossing 101,646 and some change. And Street Fighter clocked in at 99 million. So it was right there and couldn't quite get over the hump. So it's weird to think that this movie 30 years ago was the highest peak in his career. But I do think that says something about what this movie is and why you and I both love it and why a lot of people love it, because it might be the most well-focused Van Damme vehicle that exists outside of Bloodsport. But like Bloodsport was not the movie that was going to gross this kind of money. It didn't have that kind of money behind it, but
kind of lump Universal Soldier in there because it was a big budget, big cast production.
Yeah, and it made money.
Yeah.
It was successful. Okay, well, question 3. This was the second Van Damme vehicle produced by Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert's Renaissance Pictures. What was the other one?
Again, I'm going to say Hard Target.
There you go. Ding, ding, ding.
Total guess.
And that's the one that I covered with Nix 2 weeks ago.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, he's a big Raimi slut. Oh, no, he called himself a Raimi whore. So don't want to put words in his mouth. But yeah, he brought Hard Target to the table. We had a lot of fun with that one, and I got to see all the connective tissue between these films. But yeah, you aced the trivia.
Yay!
I gave you 4 possible answers, but only 3 of them were really on the board, and you got 3 out of 3. It's a good thing I have enough questions on the wheel to actually cover all that because I didn't plan that far ahead. I'm still developing questions for this later segment in the show because it was something where I was watching Street Fighter and I was like, hey, you know what? These would be fun questions to answer. So let me think of a few more. And I haven't developed that many, but I've got enough to cover us for this episode.
I'm glad I got them because then my name isn't Movie Miss for nothing. I know some stuff.
You do. I figured you were well researched and at least well enough to have read some trivia on this movie.
Yeah.
Is there anything in this film in particular that like you wanted to talk about that we haven't quite got to yet?
So yeah, just like two things.
Yeah,
number 1 is their Timecop future uniforms, their police uniforms. very nondescript, but they do have a big patch on the side of the shoulder.
Yeah, they do.
And a badge that he flashes at one point in the past, but he still gets away with it. My question was, how is nobody questioning this? Like, they look like other police officers and stuff don't give them side eye. Like, what is your deal? Why are you wearing sort of a uniform? Nobody stops them. Nobody hassles them. I don't know if you want to go walking around in a future police uniform in the past like that, so brazen.
Probably not. I also had a similar question and was like, well, maybe you just, like, if anybody really asks, you just say you're private security or something like that,
Except
but
it says TEC right on your damn shoulder.
yeah. And does he not time travel with like a space gun, right? Like a silenced laser future gun? Does that not go through the machine with him? Because it seems like you'd want to bring a sidearm with you.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like he was walking around with it holstered the whole time either.
And then my other thing was that I just thought was funny was a line that Ron Silver says to himself when he goes back in the past about, would you lay off the candy bars? I was like, yeah, I'd probably tell myself that too. So fair enough.
And he's like, hey, youngin, you're getting a little chunky over there, and we've got political office to run for. He also says to one of his henchmen, like, don't interrupt me when I'm talking to myself, as he's talking to the younger version of him, which is it's a great, like, just throwaway line because he says it so directly. It's like, yes, it's a one-liner, but he's not playing it as if it's a joke, and it sort of makes it like very menacing and psychotic, and it just plays into this character that he's built for himself, and it's really well done on his part. And like, I couldn't imagine somebody else in that role, so I'm glad that he, if nothing else, made me love this movie for like a different reason than just being a Van Damme fan at the time.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And then my last complaint, I had one complaint was the fight scenes, some of them, especially at night, they're very dark.
Yeah.
I don't know why they chose to not light them well. It's a little confusing to me because what a great choreography and great fight scenes they had. Can't see them sometimes.
Yeah, that last one in the house where the flashlight is basically the weapon and they're fighting over it. The flashlight is like lighting up the ceiling and the floor and the walls, but like really it's not even backlit enough to where you see the silhouettes. So I do like the idea of fighting with like one sole light source in a dark place, but a lantern probably would have worked better. Or like, because I have one of these old flashlights from the 80s where it has a flashlight on one side, it has a lantern like on the back side of it. And if you flip the switch all the way the other way, it's like a siren. And I mean, the thing is huge. It's like a thermos. It's like this big. And like, I don't know. I've never
for squatching, like going looking for Bigfoot.
I think it was like you keep it in your car so that like if your car breaks down, you have like an alarm that like goes off and makes noise. You have a lantern if you need to fix something, or if you're in the dark, you have a flashlight kind of thing. So it was just like a multi-purpose, junk from the 80s. I think my dad bought it, and so it's like that. I hold on to it for that sentimental reason. I never use it around the house, but I feel like some sort of other light source, like even a glow stick or something, I think would have given a little bit more ambient light to the scene. Or you just backlight it, like you pull a car into the driveway and leave the headlights on, and then they're fighting in front of the headlights of the car, something like that, where you would be able to see the silhouettes. But I agree that it was shot very darkly in that moment where it's late in the movie too, so you want to see this final conflict. You don't want it to just be this noise in the dark. Well, I wouldn't say it's a complaint on my part, but when they go into his apartment to assassinate him while he's sleeping, the slowness of the taser aside, he gets himself in a position where he is fighting a guy with double knives, dual wielding knives. And he has one knife, which he seems to block every knife strike with. But he looks over into his kitchen when he first realizes that like he's unarmed. And he sees a knife that he's like, okay, well, I'm going to use that knife if I can get to it. Like, that's the idea. But I'm like, why does he have a bunch of like half cut onions out on his cutting block with a knife in them? Like, is this the bachelor life where he's like, I can't complete making myself dinner and putting things away in the refrigerator. My knife is still out there from these onions I chopped before I sobbed myself to sleep watching my wife's, home movies. So I was like, it's a very weird. I get that you need to have a knife somewhere, but like he could just have a knife block in the kitchen like a normal person. They didn't show us him making dinner before he fell asleep.
Yeah, I was like, was he making chili? Why all the onions?
So I was like, that's a weird detail that seemed to just go unexplained. But, for the most part, I didn't have a bunch of things like that.
Wait a second. The onions is the unexplained issue you have with this future time travel movie?
With all the time traveling he's doing, he hasn't learned how to cook or how to properly store his produce.
I like that that's your beef.
Well, I am the cook in my household, so I think that's probably why it stood out to me is that I was like, sure, I leave dishes out, or maybe it's like I'm not going to clean the knife and immediately like put it away, but there's not like chopped food mid chop on the cutting board in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping. Like that's unacceptable, Mr. Van Damme. But again, like he's traumatized by the loss of his wife. He's drinking. He's watching home movies. It's quite possible that he was like, I'm going to make myself dinner. And then, memories got the better of me. And I just stopped and decided to cry myself to sleep on the couch.
You're right, because chopping the onions would have started him crying. And then he just got uncontrollable.
Exactly. He's like, oh, no, I'm remembering everything now. Time to go watch the home movies and have a beer. And then, alcohol's a depressant. And then sooner or later just forgets about all the junk on his counter. But that's a small, tiny thing. I found an interesting piece of like not like trivia, but so there's when we meet like the guy in the chair, the tech guy for the TEC, we learn that he's a pervert because he's either making or just watching VR porn at that point. And at least what I read said that the nude scene was actually supposed to be like nature documentary footage, but the offsite film team that was supposed to shoot the B-roll for the nature doc got drunk and went to the strip club the night before. And so they missed their opportunity the next morning to go to the nature preserve where they were supposed to film. So they just called the stripper and were like, hey, do you want to come be part of this movie? And added that in there. So then we get this guy being a pervert. And I kind of like it better that way because it's like, why are you watching? It was supposed to be a nature documentary on beavers. And I was like, is that supposed to be like, some like hidden meaning there? You might as well just like have the nudity and make him a pervert at that point.
One beaver to another. Yes.
Exactly.
Pivot.
And there is a sort of like throwaway moment where he puts gum on the dashboard of the time machine right before they're about to time travel. It's like, I assume it's like you don't want to choke on it, right? But Van Damme was also, I think, a year or two before this doing Japanese ads in Japan for a gum called Black that's why he does that. So it's like subtle product placement for his Japanese fans.
That's amazing. I just chalked it up to like a Rocketeer moment, like for luck. Just stick the gum on there,
Yeah, exactly. And then, so reading about it, I was like, okay, that makes sense because, I've seen some of Schwarzenegger's Japanese commercials since watching this movie many years ago. And so I was like, okay, I get it. You bring in a celebrity and it's like subtle product placement for something that nobody would notice other than the audience that it's intended for. And, you and I both love this movie, but it did end up being successful enough to spawn a TV show that was short-lived, a sequel film with Jason Scott Lee, and a video game as well. Yeah, it's like barely even related to this other than the title. Like I don't think any of the characters return in the movie.
The other movie.
Yeah, it's called like the Berlin Experiment or Berlin something.
Yeah, but Jason Scott Lee, did he or did he not play Bruce Lee in Dragon?
He did, didn't he?
Because I love him.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay, I'm totally going to look the sequel up now. Thank you for that.
I'm 99% sure that's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he's definitely Bruce Lee. And Timecop 2 was like 95 or 90. The Berlin Decision, straight to video, 2003. So almost 10 years later.
I'm sure it's not good, but I'm still going to watch it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after I watched this, all the stuff that got recommended to me on Tubi, I was like, oh my goodness, I found my home. I'm going to put all of this stuff on my watch list. So I've got once I get through Van Damme month, I'll have a ton of stuff to watch.
I can only imagine what your Tubi watch list is like.
Yeah, it's weird
after
right
everything
now.
you cover. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really watch that much on Tubi because a lot of this stuff is streaming elsewhere. I already have the video somewhere. So it was interesting because I think I do have the Timecop DVD, which is the old like snap cover DVDs from like
Me too.
original DVDs. But I didn't put the DVD in and I just went straight to Tubi. So it was fortuitous in that in talking to Nix for the Cinema Shit Show, he's like, we mostly work off of Tubi. So pick something from there. And then I was like, you know what? I never even looked. So I might as well create a watch list. And now I have all this stuff that I can bring to the table next time I go on the shit show. And,
right.
Some of it looks good and interesting. But when I see like the still frame from it, I'm like, I don't know who the hell that is. And this movie looks like it was made very cheaply. So we're going to have some of those is what I imagine.
I don't know. There's some gems, some hidden gems. So.
Yeah, there are. They actually have a really good collection, to be honest. So I'm excited to roll the dice here and there. And then I guess the last little bit of trivia was that this was the second Universal picture under Raimi and his partner's production banner, and the other one being Street Fighter. So these were coupled together. And in the Street Fighter episode, Van Damme was offered $12 million a picture for 3 pictures and turned it down. Speaking of hubris, like in a coke and alcohol induced daze, he was like, no, I'm worth Jim Carrey money. Give me 20 million. And the studio said, nope. And his career kind of never recovered after that because he had already had enough difficulties like on set at that point. And then to turn down a big studio offer like that did not do him any favors.
Yes, there was a stretch after he hit with, I don't know if it was Bloodsport or if there was one before that, but he was offered a long picture deal, like a 5, 8, 10 picture deal. I forget what it was exactly, but I was researching the bump on his head, the cyst that he has, his trademark cyst. And he claims he never had it removed because it became his signature after a while. But early on, he was so busy filming back to back to back to back because he was so hot for a decade that he never had time to go have surgery and have it removed, supposedly.
Interesting.
But that tells you right there, he thought he was hot shit because he was working nonstop for like a good decade there.
Yeah, and like reading the behind the scenes stuff for all of these movies were like he was this one actually didn't have anything negative to say about Van Damme. It's the first movie that I've covered of his where the trivia didn't have some horrible thing to say. Like Street Fighter was like, oh, he's doing $10,000 worth of coke every week and showing up drunk and late to set. Hard Target, he's super difficult to work with, and he wants the director to have one camera that just follows his muscles the whole time. Like insane type of stuff. But yeah, you're right. Like from Bloodsport on, he was just like on fire with hits, or at least like for what Van Damme would consider hits. Like he had popular recognizable stuff where, Universal Soldier was 91, Street Fighter in this movie's 94, Hard Target is 93, Nowhere to Run's 93. He's briefly in Last Action Hero, also in 93. Lionheart's 90, Death Warrant's 1990, Double Impact's 91. So yeah, from that late 80s to like early mid 90s curve, like he was busy.
So much. In Sudden Impact, was it? Which was after this, right?
Double Impact.
Was it Sudden Impact or
Sudden Death and
Sudden Death and Double Impact?
You know what? There might be a Sudden Impact somewhere in the mix. Just
I don't know.
Of the 100 movies, I don't see it off the top of my head. He did Double Impact where he again plays dual roles as like himself and his twin brother.
Right. Who also has a cyst.
Yeah. Well, they bumped heads in utero and they both grew the cyst. And then Sudden Death is like I think he's a fire captain, and he's at a hockey game with his kid. And yeah, I mean, he still goes on to do a lot of stuff. I mean, The Quest came after this, Legionnaire, Double Team, Knockoff, Maximum Risk, another Universal Soldier. And then the 2000s, it starts to peter out into some more like
Yeah.
lesser known stuff.
Yep. He did you just mentioned something that made me think of a tie to Friends when he did that episode of Friends in like 95-ish.
Yeah.
And didn't Joey do a commercial for Japanese lipstick for men?
Yes, he did. Indeed.
See how it's all connected?
Yeah. And, my wife is a huge Friends fan. And that Van Damme episode was always one where I pointed to her and I'm like, you don't really know? Like, you haven't seen Van Damme movies? Like, he was on Friends. Like, that's how big of a star he was. That when you think of people that guest starred on Friends, like George Clooney, Noah Wiley,
Julia Roberts,
Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, all these other people guest starred, and they all played other characters. Jean-Claude Van Damme guest starred on the show and was himself. That's how big of a star Jean-Claude Van Damme was. Like, he was on the most popular sitcom in the world, playing himself as just like a sexy boy. That's crazy.
Yes. And I don't know how she sees him on Friends and doesn't want to immediately run and rent every one of his movies. Like, what?
Yeah. So she's like seen a little bit here and there as I've been watching. It's like, it's all sort of like actiony stuff where it's not her bread and butter. So if I could find the good ones, which she's seen some of what I'm watching, but not enough to like sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to commit to watching a dozen or more Van Damme movies in this month, like me. So, but it is nice to at least like have some connective tissue and to see that like all of this stuff, like somehow the universe is just caught in the grasp of Jean-Claude's iron butt cheeks for this month. So
that's where a lot of women wanted to be, which is why he had big box office.
Yeah, surprisingly so. And like when I talked to Ben from Shit Show, we were doing Universal Soldier, and he was like, how is Van Damme not more popular than these other guys? Like, how did he not surpass Stallone and surpass Schwarzenegger and the other action stars? And like, unfortunately, the more I read, having done all the movies and seen that there's complaints about him on set in every one of them, that's probably what it was, is that he was difficult to work with. But we also saw that he like did John Woo's first American film, did Roland Emmerich's first American film. So he was sort of a gatekeeper for like the Hollywood action industry, which was why he works so much. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. And like when he does JCVD later on, he gets to sort of be cathartic and process some of those demons from his career and his reputation and like really be emotional in a movie where he hasn't had that opportunity.
Have you seen or heard of his show, the Jean-Claude Van Johnson?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I haven't watched it yet, and I need to find somebody who's seen it can tell me if it's good or not.
If you like Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's very good.
Perfect.
If you don't know who he is, you would like none of the jokes would work because it's like basically if you take the premise of he is who he is, but then what he really is has been like a secret agent this whole time, and that's like why he's doing so many movies because he needs to be in all these other countries doing secret operations.
Right.
It's very tongue in cheek in that way, but he still does a lot of Van Damme stuff. And I thought it was really funny. I watched that show on Amazon like when it came out. And at that time, I was like telling my wife, do you want to watch this? And she watched like one episode and she's like, nah, that's okay. So she just doesn't have the background that I do that makes it worthwhile. But for his fans, I think it's really good.
Perfect. Enough said. It's on the list.
Cool. All right. Well, I think it's time to go to Critics Corner. And this is where we hear from all of the critics in the world that hated this movie. Well, not all of them, but the ones who were willing to submit a review to Metacritic so that we could read it and chastise them on the air for their negative opinions. We start with an overall score of 48, but the lowest score on the board is a 40. And we got two of those. We have Variety and the Austin Chronicle. So who do you want to go with?
Ooh, give me Variety.
All right, Variety. This is Brian Lowry. Gave it a 40. Says, for the most part, Hyams' lackluster direction and the repetitive quality of the action sequences squander an intriguing premise and impressive production design, leaving few moments that elicit the sort of wow response such fare needs in order to prosper. That's pretty fair for a bad review, I would say. For someone that thought this is a 4 out of 10 movie,
Mhm.
It's weird to hang it on Hyams as the director because, he's made a lot of other movies at this point and some pretty, well-known stuff. I mean, like you said, he did Mimic, right? Or no, Relic.
The Relic.
Relic, yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
And he did Capricorn 1, which is a pretty well-revered sci-fi film. So it's not like he's, incompetent as a director. And you and I both talked that this is one of the more focused Van Damme movies. So I'm curious if Van Damme's personality on set is just a little hard to wrangle. There was a story here that they wanted the fight scenes to be a certain way. Van Damme wanted them choreographed differently. And when they said no, he punched his stuntman in the face and busted his nose. So again, oh yeah, sorry. So there was one negative story that I read about Van Damme on set for Timecop. So yeah, if all that stuff adds up, then that's, obviously not great. It doesn't make me want to if I had the opportunity to sit down with Van Damme and tell him how much I loved his body of work and talk to him about his career, I would absolutely love to do it. All this negative stuff I've heard aside, I don't care. I would still love to talk to him because I feel like it'd be super interesting and I would just love to hear his take on all of this stuff that's happened throughout his career.
Agreed.
Yeah, but okay, let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 50s on the board. So
Ooh.
we'll go with 2 of them. And we've got Washington Post, Real Views, Entertainment Weekly, Chicago Tribune, and I'll save 1 for Ebert. So you can choose Tribune, Entertainment Weekly, Real Views, or the Post.
Entertainment Weekly.
Entertainment Weekly, that's Owen Gleiberman. He says the plot is more confusing than clever, and the only actor who seems to be having any fun is Silver, who's at his best throwing masochistic hissy fits at his younger, not quite so evil self. And I mean, I love that. I mean, at least you're praising Silver in this role, and
yeah,
that's fine by me. I mean, yes, the plot is a little confusing. It's a little light on the time travel details, so I can accept that. But to say that, hey, I didn't love it, but this guy's great in it, and it has some weaknesses, and just call it a wash at a 50, that's not too bad.
Agreed.
Okay, so that brings us to Roger Ebert, who I always read when I have the opportunity.
Ebes, let's hear it.
He also gave it a 50, but a 2 out of 4 for him is really not too bad. He says Timecop, a low-rent Terminator, is the kind of movie that is best not thought about at all. For that way madness lies. So yeah, he's like, if you focus on the details, you're going to drive yourself insane. Don't worry about Nick. Don't worry about the knife and the onions on the counter. Okay. Somebody in props did that and they just had to work with it. And there's no explanation, but to call it a low rent Terminator seems like a miss.
Yeah, that's not quite right. And also, he's known for not loving horror films, but I thought he liked action films where you check your brain at the door a little more than a 2 out of 4. Maybe I'm wrong on his body of reviews, but
yeah, he's mostly pretty low on the spectrum on horror films, but
yeah,
I guess I would have to check in with more action fare for him.
I thought he was a little more of a fan than that, but especially with the check your brain at the door type like this, like where you don't overthink it. Interesting.
I do find the Terminator comment interesting because the more I've been diving into Van Damme's career, the more it feels like a lot of his movie choices are more or less knockoffs of other successful action films. Like Universal Soldier is more like Terminator than this. Sudden Death is Die Hard. Bloodsport is Rocky 4. And I didn't have that movie though for this. Like this doesn't feel like Back to the Future for him, although that'd probably be like the easiest low-hanging fruit. But yeah, it doesn't really strike me as a Back to the Future movie because Back to the Future, like, it is serious here and there, but it has a lot of comedic forward elements. Maybe it is, but do you have any other movie that you can think of that like this would be considered like a low rent version of?
Well, I feel like if you took Back to the Future and you meshed it with Demolition Man.
Oh, there you go. Demolition
You kind of get this movie, yeah.
Demolition Man, I think, is a better comp because Demolition Man's still a little bit more, well, a lot more comedy forward than this, but yeah, I like that one. I'll take it. And I'll take it, and I'll just be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense, and we'll move on.
Okay. Like this movie.
Yeah. We've got Empire and the New York Times on the board with 60s. So who do you want to go with?
Oh, New York Times. They tend to be real critical.
Oh, yeah. And this is Janet Maislin, who is very, very critical. But she gave it a 60, so higher than Eves. And she says years of tireless persistence have begun to work in Mr. Van Damme's favor. It's hard not to enjoy his energy, even if his acting gifts still leave a lot to be desired. The fact that he looks good, behaves affably, and kicks with gusto, which is quite enough to satisfy the demands of Timecop. All right, so she's a fan of a scantily clad JCVD as well.
Yep.
It goes
okay,
a
I
long
like her.
way. Yeah.
Well, think about his movies in general. That's date night because the dude gets his action movie and the chick gets the Van Damme-ness. Like, it's a great date night movie.
Yeah, if she didn't work for the New York Times, she would be praising the kitchen splits a little bit more, I think. Okay, and we go to the top of the board. We've got a 75 from the San Francisco Chronicle. This is Mick LaSalle. Says the desire to go back in time to change things, or just to visit, is so central to the experience of being alive and stuck in time that Timecop has a built-in power. It's a power the film, a satisfying sci-fi thriller, takes full advantage of. Okay, I mean, yeah, the premise is good. The idea behind Timecop is good. Whether or not it's the best version of the idea that it could possibly be, maybe not so much. But it is fun. It takes advantage of its premise, and it delivers a Van Damme action vehicle. Like we said, it gives Van Damme more to work with than he's had in a lot of other movies in terms of like dramatic range. So, especially at this time in his career too. So I feel like that's a fairly solid 3 out of 4 from Mr. LaSalle.
I like it. And I feel like in this movie, there's enough good stuff that when you don't watch it for a few years, you're like, I think I want to watch Timecop. I remember that movie being fun. Because there's enough of it that sticks with you that is good if you don't overthink it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened when I threw it on a couple years ago. I was like, you know what? It's been a long time since I've seen Timecop, and I really loved that movie when I was a kid. I watched it a bunch. I owned the DVD when the DVD first came out in probably like 1996 or something. So I've had a connection to this movie for such a long time that I wanted to go back and give it a chance. And so, yeah, sure, I was underwhelmed when I watched it then, but then watching it, like actually taking notes, paying attention, trying to really like hone in on what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't work. I felt like I enjoyed it a lot more this time than I did last time.
Yeah, I had the same experience.
So, yeah, thank you for making Timecop your choice because, I reserve that for you. And
I appreciate
I was like, I don't care how long it takes. We'll find a way to talk Timecop because I love this movie. And so I sort of, beat around the bush with some other films. And I was like, okay, does someone want to do Cyborg? Maybe we could get a little sudden death in here on the side. And so, yeah, I've been waiting for Timecop the entire time. And when we were doing this concurrently with Film Club on Twitter as well, and Timecop is the last movie, I think, that's on the board for Twitter. So somebody also recommended it for Film Club as well. So I might get to double dip Timecop and have a 3-hour-long community conversation about it live on Twitter. So that'll be fun if it happens. But we're doing The Quest next.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be a fun one.
That is one that I haven't seen on the list yet.
No? Okay. Well, it's a fight tournament movie. So, okay. Well, we did trivia earlier and you got all the questions right. So that means you get 3 questions from the wheel. So we're gonna have some fun with this one because I think I've only done maximum 1 bonus question. So yeah, the question that I ask everybody is, what is a good gateway drug type of movie for Timecop?
Well, when I was thinking real hard about other movies that are comparable, I came up with one that I don't know how you feel about it. 12 Monkeys.
Ooh, I love 12 Monkeys.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like it's a different take on a similar premise because he's trying to go back and stop an incident in the past and the time travel, but they get about the logistics of the actual travel way different. So I feel like that's a fun one, but it's you know, you don't just want to say watch another Van Damme action movie. Like I feel like you need to delve into maybe time travel stuff. So 12 Monkeys is kind of where my brain goes for that.
That's a great one. Actually, the fantasy football league that I'm the commissioner of, every time we've grown, we started as Hateful Eight, we switched to the whole 10 yards. It's always a movie title. And so when we got to 12 people, I was like, well, we're definitely going to be the 12 Monkeys. So I produce like little like vignettes for our club. So got like the music and like clips from the movie and like just mash it up with like voiceover. So it like seems like it's about fantasy football. It's crazy and it's a lot of time that I don't have, but
I was just gonna say, Mike, like you didn't have enough to do.
yeah, it's fun though. So I still do it. I love 12 Monkeys. That's a great choice. I would say ones that people like that are probably like better realized versions of this would be like Looper.
Mm-hmm.
Looper would probably be one that people are like, hey, I know this movie. I like this movie. I like the time travel stuff. Maybe that's a good one. Predestination is a good one too.
Wasn't there one similar called Jumper or Jump?
Yeah, the one with, I think, isn't that Hayden Christensen or?
Yeah, one of them had Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Was that Looper?
That's Looper, yeah.
So Jumper was something else, but I swear it's like so similar.
In Jumper, they are teleporters, I believe. It's actually pretty fun. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's like they're basically like superheroes that can just teleport, and you know, there's a couple of them, and yeah. So I would say like if you want a movie that people actually think is fairly good, I would say probably Looper, maybe Predestination, but Deja Vu, the Denzel movie, I feel like is maybe closer quality wise to Timecop than the other two, and you get Denzel. Like so, like
great choice.
Denzel's never really going to let you down. So I think that's a good
did
one.
you see The Bone Collector?
I love The Bone Collector.
Oh, okay.
Angelina, Denzel. All right,
agree to disagree.
We'll talk about that another time. That's a good one. You get 3 more. So let's see. If this movie were to get made today, give me a writer, director, lead actor trio that you would like to see take this project on.
I would like a even darker twist on it. When I read that it was from Dark Horse Comics stories, I was like, ooh, it's going to be like DC Dark Time Cop, but it had a little bit of levity. I would like to see it go in a much darker direction. So maybe somebody who borders on horror action directing, like a James Wan or somebody like that. And definitely for writing, similar vein. I couldn't name one off the top of my head because the ones I really like are super busy and they wouldn't have time for this project. Like Flanagan's overwhelmed with projects right now.
Yeah, but that would be a good choice.
Yeah, but I would want it in a darker direction. As far as starring in it, that's tough because Van Damme is his own thing.
He is.
I'm not real up on who's young and hot and built, because see, that's the other thing you were talking about earlier, trying to build the muscles for no reason to be in Jurassic Park.
Right.
There aren't that many young actors that come to mind when I think really in shape and physically fit doing this kind of a movie. I'd be hard pressed to cast it.
That's fair. I mean, Van Damme is an actor unto himself. And if nothing else, he exists in a space that has been occupied by very few others. And in watching the Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning movie that we watched, like Scott Adkins, who is the lead in that, is very good at the physical stuff, but does not translate for me as like the leading action man. Like, yeah, he can do all the physical stuff and it looks good while he's doing it, but he is not a compelling like lead actor in the way that Van Damme is. And I don't know what it is about it. It just, that charisma just isn't quite there. And so if you were to take it in a much darker direction and you want it to be more serious, maybe you don't need a guy who's going to be super muscled out and doing a bunch of kicks. Maybe you do someone a little bit more brooding and a little bit just more measured as like the detective, the actual cop, rather than like, oh, I have to solve every problem with kicks to the face.
I would go with like a young somebody who maybe reminds me of like David Boreanaz when he was on Angel, but I don't know who that would be.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Well, it's one to think on. If you're listening to this
Yes.
and you think there's somebody that could take on Timecop right now, please let us know. Doesn't have to be someone in their 20s. I mean, figure 30s to 40s is probably normal for like a police officer on active duty. So please shoot me an email. You can do so at badmovieswelove@theshice.com. You can find me on Twitter too, at badmovieswelove, but it's spelled with the LUV
That's
because
right.
the other one was taken and I wanted it to be uniform across all the platforms. So
So
do what
close.
you can do. Okay. Well, let's spin the wheel again. Get you another question here. If you could replace one piece of this cast, who would it be and why?
That's easy. I would replace Sara. Even though she's a delight, her talent is wasted. So you could plug in any up and comer from the early 90s in her spot, and she wouldn't really be missed.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment, unfortunately. And I felt the same way. I was like, she's so much better than she's given to work with here. And, I wanted to see more of them because they are like a cute couple when they're together. And it's not a rom com. I understand that. But it would have been nice to establish that they have a relationship that's worth mourning and worth fighting over rather than just like, oh, well, they're married and they made love. So obviously, like, he has to care, which maybe in the 90s that was still glorified as like this ideal, but I think
The
people are a lot more
given.
the people are a lot more jaded now. So I really want to see it played out on screen.
Yeah.
And let's see, we get one more question. Let's go with a fun one. What movie snack would you pair with this movie?
Well, I'm not gonna say Sour Patch Kids.
Don't do it. Your blood sugar will crash horribly.
I'm gonna say, red vines.
Ooh.
Red vines because they're flexible and bendy, much like Van Damme.
Yeah. And Red Vines is actually, you called this like kind of a date movie because like the ladies get Van Damme, the guys get the action. And one of the few snacks that my wife and I actually both like at the movie theater is Red Vines. I don't eat a ton of them, but we'll share a pack of Red Vines and we can both enjoy them. So I think that's a very, very good pick.
Perfect. Yay.
Cool. Well, that wraps up our first like full edition of Trying the Wheel with multiple questions. And, we're at the point in the show where we're wrapping up. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk about what you're working on. I know you said your show's on hiatus. So what else you got going on?
So we are working on putting together episodes forthcoming. At the moment, we did drop our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Let's Talk Turkeys down to just $1 a month because it's got our entire back catalog and a few exclusive episodes that are not on the main feed. So you can be catching up, checking out ones you missed while you're waiting for us to come back with new content in a couple of months. It's Let's Talk Turkeys on Spotify, Apple, all the places. And then we also have an Instagram, Let's Talk Turkeys, Facebook page, Facebook group, and I have an Instagram at Movie Miss as well. So you can check us out on our socials and chat with me. And we're game for having people on as guests. If you have a bad movie you want to suggest for our show, we go a little more critical and not so much loving them sometimes. But it's all in good fun. We always have a good laugh.
Yeah, definitely check out the show. If you like this show, there's definitely like a lot of connective tissue between our two shows, which is why we became friendly, why you're on this show now. And, in this, it's kind of a little bit scattered in that we just have fun. We're talking about ideas, we're talking about the actors, a lot of backstory, a lot of history. And when I've listened to your show, it's a lot more structured in that like we're tackling the movie from the beginning to the end of the film and actually like diagnosing what is going wrong along the way there versus just like, oh, well, here's something that I remembered that I liked, So I think, if you can't afford $1 a month to listen to the entire back catalog, I'll gift somebody a subscription. Just if you listen to this episode, you let me know. I'll buy you the month for the $1. Okay.
I'll buy that for $1. Yeah, there's your RoboCop tie-in.
I'll do it for 5 people. I'll give away a month subscription. Wow. Yeah. So
wow. That's so generous.
When this episode comes out, those $5 are gonna go a long way. When this episode comes out, I'll put it in the notes and I'll let everybody know. And then you reach out to me. The first 5 people that reach out to me that want the subscription, I'll give you subscriptions to the show. How's that?
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem. I'm happy to support it. Is there anything else that you wanted to get to before we wrap up our evenings and move along?
I think we're good. This was such a delight to revisit. I'm so happy you held out for me to be on this episode. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I was waiting with bated breath. I was like, I know Timecop is coming sooner or later. Yeah, I was like, I will plan accordingly just in case like you're not feeling well. I'll make sure that I have stuff. But even if it wasn't during June-Claude Van Damme, we were going to find a way to talk about Timecop at some point. And I'm just happy that it happened to land in this sweet spot window where I'm just knee deep in Van Damme stuff.
Not something you hear every day, but okay.
No.
Knee deep in Van Damme. Thank you, though.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of your night. And until next time, take care.
Yep, you too.
A big thanks to Movie Miss for coming on the show and giving me a reason to go back and watch Timecop on its 30th anniversary. It's always fun to get together and talk with her, and I'm really glad that we found a time to make this happen. You can check out her show, Let's Talk Turkeys, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find her on Instagram at Movie Miss or Let's Talk Turkeys, and on X at Gobble Podcast. But I'll make sure that I correct all that and put it all up in the show notes for you. And as I mentioned, I'm giving away 5 introductory memberships to her Patreon to the first 5 people that ask me for one. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this episode. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please consider leaving a rating on your podcast platform of choice and telling a friend about it. And the support page is now live over at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or at badmovieswelove on Twitter and Instagram. And that's love with an LUV on the socials. And until next time, take care, be well, and have fun however you get your movies.